Introduction: The End of Natural Disasters. Age of Revisions. There seems to be no escaping it. With record tornadoes and floods in the Midwest. A massive drought from California to Florida. A gigantic earthquake, tsunami and nuclear accident in Japan. Anomalous floods in Vermont and New Jersey unleashed by Hurricane Irene. More flooding in Australia. An earthquake in New Zealand. Devastating fires in Texas. And another earthquake in Turkey. The year 2011 has gone down as the most expensive for natural disasters ever. Catastrophe, it seems, is becoming something of a way of life for us. Indeed, it has become the new norm for civilization. But, of course, the very word catastrophe means a reversal of what is expected. It is a Greek word, a compound of kata, meaning down, and strophe, meaning turn or reversal, as in a reversal of fortune. Catastrophes, then, are supposed to be exceptions to the normal run of things. They are disruptions of the banal world of seriality and repetition, of days carbon copied from one another, in which the hell of the same unfolds with single-minded and relentless monotony. Catastrophes are singularities which erupt into such sequences with bizarre and atrocious anomalies of human suffering. But on a planet in which catastrophes are becoming a daily occurrence, the classical understanding of the word no longer seems to fit. It has to be revised, along with everything else, and modified to fit the changed circumstances of an upside-down world in which catastrophes are now the norm and banality is increasingly becoming the exception. Catastrophe has become our new environment, a total surround, inside which we exist, but without noticing the strangeness of it, precisely because of its very ubiquity. Nowadays, it seems that every time I turn on CNN or read the New York Times, one fresh catastrophe or another is in process of unfolding somewhere on this planet, and not of the political kind, either, which is another matter, but rather the kind of catastrophe that threatens to unhinge the very order of civilization itself. As I write this, Hurricane Irene has just made her way up the eastern seaboard, nearly submerging Vermont and washing entire towns into the sea. In the Pacific Ocean, meanwhile, typhoons are ravaging the Philippines, where they threaten China and Japan, while just days ago, another anomaly, a 6.0 earthquake, struck the East Coast, putting a crack into the Washington Monument. All this appears not to be just business as usual, either, as the political right would like us to think, for climate experts and geological scientists are now saying that earthquakes are on the rise in both frequency and intensity, while Category 4 and 5 hurricanes have doubled in number since the 1990s, since which decade the hottest years ever recorded are now on file. Of course, these are all natural catastrophes, but one of the arguments you will find me making in this book is that there is no longer any such thing as a natural catastrophe, since all such catastrophes now occur on a planetary stage that has been tampered with by human beings, those ex-simians turned atmospheric architects whose greenhouse gas emissions have so altered the biosphere that it is now virtually impossible to point to a strip of Earth anywhere on the planet that has not been somehow managed by the human hand. The 2008 Sichuan earthquake, for instance, has gone down as the world's first man-made earthquake. Now, it seems, we are even capable of engineering our own quakes. All disasters nowadays, to one degree or another, would seem to be man-made, and so the old conceptual dichotomy of civilization versus nature has become one of those outdated polarities of the kind that Derrida used to love to deconstruct, and which therefore no longer fit with the postmodern, or, rather, ultramodern situation. Our engineering projects have become so entangled with the Earth's bio- and lithospheric processes that anything which happens in the human order sends ripples out through the natural order and vice versa. The human hand, nowadays, seems to be perennially hidden behind the disasters and catastrophes which routinely befall us. This is, indeed, a truly novel situation. In the days of the ancients, whenever earthquakes, storms and floods transpired, the ancients could always pray to their gods to show them some form of mercy, since they knew that other forces were involved in the causes of these phenomena. Like the leavenation other which troubles and disrupts the self-closure of the eye circuit, forcing an ethical singularity in which I must now take the problems and concerns of the other into account within my own personal ethical feedback loop, so too, The civilizational closure of the ancient world was constantly being forced to take the other, the cosmic other, in this case, into account, as their cities were disrupted by the wrath of the gods in the form of floods, earthquakes and tsunamis. If a catastrophe befell a Sumerian city, for instance, if its population was deported and the city destroyed, then it was assumed that the city's patron deity had withdrawn her favor from the city due to one or another offense on the part of its rulers. Likewise, if catastrophe befell a particular ruler or dynasty of ancient Chinese civilization, if, for example, the Shang dynasty was overthrown by the rulers of the Chu, it was assumed that another, supernatural order was involved, a heavenly order that had withdrawn the so-called mandate of heaven from that line of rulers and transferred it to the new dynasty. But the existence of this other order can no longer be factored in when considering the human civilizational equations, since humanity has taken upon itself the management of the planetary ecosystems that were once delegated to the order of the gods. It is not the eye of Horus that now watches us from above, but the electronic eye of the satellites cluttering up the Earth's thermosphere. It is not the gods who move rivers around anymore with earthquakes and floods, but the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as for instance, in the case of their constraining of the Mississippi River into a single mighty channel, which then contributes to the erosion of the coastal wetlands as an unintended byproduct, thus clearing a path for gigantic hurricanes coming in off of waters warmed by rising global temperatures. We can pray to Harak, the Mayan god of hurricanes, to show us mercy anymore. That option is no longer available to us, for the gods, as Heidegger once pointed out, have withdrawn from us into concealment. Neither can we pray to the gods of earthquake, Poseidon or JB, to show us mercy when we are building the world's largest dams and reservoirs along fault lines that create seismic tremors due to the massive displacement of water. Our technologies have become cosmospheric in scale. And we have replaced the old order of the other, the divine other, with a humanly manufactured and engineered cosmosphere inside which we are now surrounded and encased. It is we humans who are now causing what used to be referred to as natural catastrophes and before that were revelations of the wrath of the divine other. But now we have replaced the order of the gods with a human, man-made order, and it is we humans who are, in one way or another, inevitably to be found at work in the wings of the stage shifting things around. Our catastrophes are no longer caused by gods at war with one another, such as the war between Athena and Poseidon which caused the sinking of Atlantis, but rather engineers and city planners whose projects are at war with one another's. It is their failure to agree that results in huge catastrophes which bring down disasters of cosmic scale and scope onto our cities. So with the technological conquest of the Earth by Western, now actually planetary civilization, we know where the causes are coming from, and they can no longer be blamed on the gods. We are at fault for the state the Earth now happens to find itself in, for we have taken over the roles once formerly occupied by the gods of old. Human beings now find themselves responsible for planetary management and mismanagement, and so there is no one else left to pray to in order to show us mercy in the situation that has come about. If we want mercy, we had better start rethinking the layout of the current civilizational order, since we were the ones, and not the gods, who set it up in its present configuration. Hence, with a new planetscape of impossibly intertwined entanglings of earthly biorhythms and colossal human engineering projects, our language with its stratum of old-fashioned terms like accident and catastrophe is going to have to change in order to catch up with current events. The word accident, for instance, used to imply something man-made, but not anymore. Hurricane Katrina was both natural catastrophe and man-made accident. It is a Derridean undecipherable, for since the hurricane itself was the result of global warming or at least, exacerbated by it, it can no longer be said to have been merely natural. It is impossible to draw the line anymore between natural and man-made with anything like the conviction with which such designations were drawn during, say, the Steam Age. So, all the old vocabulary has to be thrown out. Catastrophes are no longer anomalies, as the word implies, but have become civilization's new default mode. Accidents no longer refer merely to man-made disasters like car crashes, train derailments and plane crashes but to what in reality are Derridean undecipherable. And disasters, which implies something cosmic. The word astral points to the heavens, now mostly have their origin in things as banal as human engineering of the Earth's ecosystems gone awry. Thus, none of the old vocabulary fits the new situation anymore, and that is part of the reason why it is so difficult for us to understand what is going on all around us. Our thinking is constrained along the lines of these old words, but one cannot, of course, understand new situations without new concepts to go along with them. All catastrophes reveal hidden aspects of being. Each one of them can be examined, as they are in this book, in just the way that a forensic investigator reconstructs the life world of a crime victim in order to find out how the singularity of his death occurred as a sudden disruption within the continuity of that life world. Each catastrophe, likewise, occurs within the very specific parameters of a certain life world embedded in a cosmosphere that can be carefully reconstructed piece by piece. And, since every cosmosphere is imperfect, creating, at best, only a partial image of the world as a whole, the investigator of the accident or catastrophe finds that each disaster reveals a hidden flaw built into each cosmosphere, showing the point of its incompletion or else the fatal assumption made as a design error that is capable of rupturing the whole system.